Hello, my name is Ashley from The Couch. This is another installment of our interviews from our panelists for the upcoming event, the Miseducation of Womanhood, Dolled Up, Painted Up, and Messed Up. We have a really awesome guest, and I'll go ahead and give her an opportunity to introduce herself.
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Latia Vaughn, and I am the Dream Pusher. I am a coach, I am a business strategist, and I am a best-selling author and keynote speaker. And I'm very, very excited to be with you, Ashley, today.
Woo, woo, woo. So, everybody, I'm really excited about this guest. She's one of our panelists for the upcoming event, as I said earlier. And I just really wanted this opportunity to be one where you guys can, of course, like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Couch, but also ask some questions to our panelists so we can kind of get to know the people who are going to be imparting into us on June the 29th, which is just coming up Monday at 5 p.m. right here on Facebook and also on the Couch YouTube channel. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our first question. How did you learn how to be a woman?
Okay, so you know that question is loaded, right? Um, so if we can look at this way spiritually, we can look at this way scientifically. Something I was teaching before is up until the age of 0 to 7, children are in something called a theta state, which is like a hypnosis state, right? Which means they have no consciousness of their own, and so they're physically downloading programs from what they see, from parents, from authority figures, from environments, from friends and peers. And so they're soaking all this information up. And oftentimes we don't realize this answer, I think, is going to be two-part. I oftentimes think we don't realize how what we took in from those early years affect us to this day. That is often because a lot of people don't realize that trauma, and also we talk about genetics, and all of this stuff can be passed down through your blood, right? So oftentimes we get older and we become adults, and you know how you say you act just like your mom, you like just like your dad. I'm like, no, I don't, because we cannot physically observe our behavior. So your question is dealing with, how did we learn to become a woman? I think it's twofold. I think it has to do with our past experiences of what we viewed, what we took in, and B, coming into an awareness and an awakening of who you are as life goes on. And if I'm honest with you, I really think that it has less to do with how did you become a woman. And I think this question should be more about learning about what type of woman you want to be, right? After you come into your awareness and your awakening. And I first start thinking of, okay, so I'm a movie buff, right? So I start thinking of Boomerang. Do you know that movie? You know that movie? So no, oh my gosh, you're too young.
I've
Okay,
seen
so
it back in the day. Back in the
okay,
day.
so it immediately made me think of Boomerang. So Boomerang was a huge hit movie. I love this movie back in the 90s. But what I saw, there were so many different representations of different types of women. So you had your Leela Rashan, and she was a woman that was very vulnerable. She was very naive. She was very gullible, and that led her into making all her decisions in womanhood. Right. Then you had your Tisha Campbell, and she was a woman who was hurt, and so her anger, her pain, her circumstances led her into her decision making and cutting people off and cussing people out and all this other stuff. So her pain led her. That was the type of woman, she grew into be. Then you have your Grace Jones, right? Grace Jones, if you don't know who she is fierce, she is powerful, she's not afraid to embrace her uniqueness, her strangeness, her sexuality. And she used all of that as a force to get ahead as a woman in life, right? Then you have your Eartha Kitt darling, right? And Eartha Kitt in the movie, she represented a woman that was led by her experience. She knew how to talk to a man. She knew how to finesse and caress. And she used that as a tool as a woman to move forward in her career and in her life, right? She had that old Hollywood glam, that grace, she was bad. And then you have, your main characters, which was who? You had your Robin Williams, right? Your Robin Williams. She was a beautiful woman, right? She was feminine. She was led by her need to achieve and her power and her career. And that led her to being the type of woman that would make decisions that would get her further in life, right? And then you have your, who else? Halle Berry. Halle Berry, right? And her, she was more vulnerable and she led from a place of giving and in love and in self-expression. And in the end, you know, that led her into high success and love, right? So if we switch the question, that's just the way my mind thinks. If we switch the question and we say, is it more about how did we learn to be a woman, or we can't help what happened in the past. I can't help what happened in my childhood. I can't help the trauma my parents went through. I can't help the things that were passed through my lineage, but I can come into a knowing of myself and learn about what type of woman I want to be. And if we're honest, if we're talking about womanhood, I think all of those women that we talked about, your Robin Williams, your Grace Jones, who was strange, your Halle Berrys, you know, your Tisha Campbells, who went through hurt in life, you know, your Lila Rashawn's that was sensitive and vulnerable and a little bit naive, your Eartha Kitt's. I think there's a little bit of each of them. There are other characters too, but for the sake of time, there's in women, I think we have each of those unique traits that we can kind of cross in if life hits us a certain type of way. But I think the more we come into knowing who we are and accepting who we are, accepting the type of grace and power God led us to have to be successful in life, I think the more satisfied we'll be and the more impact we'll make to other women and young girls and young ladies that are growing into womanhood as well. So in a nutshell, two parts. It has to deal with your history and what you observed, but at a certain point, you now have to take responsibility and say, now, what kind of woman do I want to be? And then lead from there.
Yes, that was so insightful. First of all, I'm definitely gonna have to go and watch Boomerang again now. So
Wait,
that's gonna
have
be
you,
on my
but you
list.
watched it, right?
I back in the
I
day, but I
love
don't feel
Boomerang.
you love it. I feel like now I gotta go back so I can like really get into it and really watch out for all
Get
the stuff that
into
you're
it though.
saying. I need to get into it. Yeah. And so yeah, that's pretty awesome. And that really leads, I think, to a really important segue of what life event, if any, made you say to yourself, I'm a woman now.
Um, I would have to say after I graduated, I went to Hampton University, and I was born and raised in Rochester, New York. And I think the first step in my womanhood was making the decision to leave all I knew and to go into the unknown, right? And to venture off. However, when you're in college, you're still technically under your parents' wing, you're still under their insurance. I mean, all types of things. And I think the first step, or the second step, I should say, was after I graduated from college and I decided to stay in Virginia and start to build my own life the way I felt God was leading me to. And that deals with taking responsibility, because we can easily stay in the comfort zone, right? Um, but comfort does not necessarily mean, how can I say this without, there's so many people that try to live in their comfort zones, and as a result of it, they never grow to the full capacity of where God is bringing them to. So I had to learn, despite my being uncomfortable, despite my fear of not having my family around me, I had to remove the safety net and to learn how to walk this thing out for myself. So I think that was one of the things that led me into saying, you know what, I'm about to do it on my own. Yeah, yeah.
That that's well, first of all, everything that you said was powerful, but it really made me think of something that you said to me years ago. For those of you that don't know, we went to the same church together, the Mark Church of God in Christ. It was
Yeah.
such a launching point for so many of us that were there because we were all so young. But one of the things that I remember that you said to me was not to make permanent decisions based off of temporary situations. And
Mm.
I think that maybe one of the larger, I guess, growth opportunities for people when they come into their own as a woman is realizing that I have a lot of freedom to make a lot of choices that could follow me for the rest of my life. And so, even with books like, if you haven't read Miles Monroe, The Burden of Freedom, that book I think really helped me personally to understand just how powerful of a statement saying I'm a woman now can be, and how the freedom that God's given us as women of God, especially in this society where literally anything goes. Um, Not everything is expedient for wherever you're going in life and
Yeah.
your future destination, which leads us to our third and final question. What was the hardest struggle of womanhood that you've experienced?
Um, I would have to say, and I wrote about it in my book. It was realizing the concept of evolution. So it was a point in my life where I went through so many changes that I felt all over the place. You have to understand, I was in corporate. I went from corporate to being a housewife, being having no children to having children, moving from Virginia to New York, where my career took me back to Atlanta once I got married, from having my original last name to taking someone else's last name. And I went through so many transitions during such a short period of time like that. I just felt lost. And one day I was crying on the bed, and I was just like, God, I don't know who I am. I don't know what role to play because I'm so used to being this. And God said that you are not lost. You are rediscovering yourself. And from that moment, it clicked that every phase in our life, we have a responsibility responsibility to rediscover who we are in that moment. And I think one of the things and the challenges that we have as women, because of the different capacities and hats that we lead in, is that we want to try to lead in this new area of life based on the old philosophy in our prior seasons. And if I don't take the time to do that soul work, or to dig deep, or to say, what do I really like now? Because what I like now is not the same thing I liked 10 years ago. If you don't take the time to do that work, then it'll be a constant struggle, and that resistance will get so hard and so hard. And oftentimes we mistake that resistance by saying, God, this isn't for me. God, this is too hard, or God, I can't do it. And really, it's this resistance and this wall that's building. But if you just give into the moment, if you just give into the flow of what is happening naturally with you in your growth, in your succession in your life, and taking that time to rediscover who you are in this moment, I think that you will have more successes than you will failures. You will have a more impact than you will not. I think that you will have a bigger reach than you would have if you stayed inside of your room and keeping your gifts locked inside. So if we're honest about where we are, it's okay to say you're hurt. It's okay to say you're angry. It's okay to say, God, I don't know what you're doing. I don't even know what this is. This moment feels unknown. This moment feels, I don't know if you've been through that, where it just feels like you're floating. But if you take a second to still yourself, become still, and to do some deep work, I believe that God will start to bring those things to you that will start to ground you in each one of those seasons. And when you're grounded, you have more traction. When you have more traction, you're able to run faster. You're able to run longer. You're able to do the distance. So, and that's what happened with me personally. That was a serious breaking point in my life, because I almost took my life during that moment. That's how critical that moment was for me. And so I think we are all presented with critical turning points and crossroads, and we have to make that decision whether we're going to leap or whether we're going to stay and die in this moment. So, yeah. Ma'am, I think you're frozen, Ashley. Hello? Can you guys see me? I'll just be still.
Okay, definitely had some technical difficulties there. My
Okay. I was here. I was just fixing my hair. I was just like, well, okay, well, we just going, you
I
know.
don't. Yeah. Sorry, guys. It just went out, and I was like, oh no. But yeah, it's a good thing that it waited till we were towards the end. But still, yeah, definitely. If you didn't get a chance to finish answering the question, you can keep going. Did
Oh, I
you?
finished. Did you get the rest of it? Did they get the rest of it?
But it's
No.
okay. But it's okay. I did want to ask you with the part that I was able to see, um, just speak a little bit. I'd love to you speak a little bit more to that. I think a lot of times people think that marriage kind of solves some issues and it adds a sense of security. But I love the transparency in you saying that it actually just threw some extra pieces in to the puzzle that you had to kind of figure out like how they fit into maybe who you were and who you're becoming. So maybe if you can speak a little bit more to that transition and how that impacted you.
Um. So if we're talking specifically about marriage, uh, I think it has a lot to do with, there's so many layers to this, and that's what I'm trying to choose carefully. I think it has a little bit more to do about what each person's expectation of marriage is. Marriage is not a fix all. Just like there's some people that think having a baby with somebody is a fix all. Just like, people think that if you're single, that's a curse. And I'm like, no, there is beauty at every stage. There is beauty at every stage. There is power at every stage. We're just impacting the earth differently. That's it. And but for me, in terms of marriage and in life, let me speak to this. um I had to realize that we are not what we do, but we are what we possess. Let me say that again. You are not what you do, but you are what you possess. And oftentimes we're caught up in the roles that we play, that whenever we switch roles in life, I don't know who I am. It's like the football player or the basketball or whoever. All they know is that. All they knew is that role. And whenever life shifts, they feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm about to pull my hair out. I feel like I have no identity because they put their identity into a role. When the thing that made you successful is the fact that you're a firecracker or you're studious, or the fact that you are a lover of life, or the fact that you're funny. So whatever stage and role that I'm in, who I am is who I am, and all I have to do, if I can incorporate more of who I am in what I do each day, I will feel more fulfilled. But oftentimes it's backwards. We try to study the role instead of studying ourselves. We study the role and what it takes to be this person. And so I try to conform to that role versus studying what makes me so special and so unique. And then the role will fit inside of you naturally. There will always be a gravitational pull to your purpose, but we're too busy pulling towards something else, trying to fit ourselves into something else, when you would realize that there's purpose is multi-dimensional. There's so many layers to our purpose, and it just depends on the season that you're in. So in terms of the motherhood season and the wife season, and then the corporate season, and now the entrepreneurship season, it's all good. It's all beautiful. The single season, I love even the parts of my single days, because listen, on my Friday nights after I got off of work, I would get myself some crab legs. I would pick my favorite movie, and I would treat myself. I loved each of those stages. There could be hardships in each of those stages, but there's also beauty in each of those stages. And if we learn to appreciate more of the beauty instead of comparing to somebody else, then you'll spend more time looking out than looking in. And when the right person comes along, we won't be ready for them because we're so busy looking out instead of looking in. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I feel. Word.
That is so, so good, y'all. I hope that you guys got as much out of this as I did, and that this kind of makes you, really excited about what's coming on June 29th, which is this coming up Monday. Hey! So I'm so excited because I just know that this is going to be so edifying and so life changing for all those that watch. So definitely, guys, tune in right here on my Facebook page at 5 p.m. On Monday, June the 29th, or on my YouTube channel, The Couch, as we talk more about the definition of womanhood. The name of the forum is The Miseducation of Womanhood, dolled up, painted up, and messed up. And I have been Ashley with our guest Latia Vaughn, the Dream Pusher, and we'll see you guys on June 29th at 5 p.m. Bye.
Bye.